Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over a big SEC matchup coming up in week number 6, and that's going to be between Tennessee and Georgia. Of course, you saw Georgia last week. They looked like easily one of the best teams in the nation after blowing out Auburn. And then Tennessee, on the other hand, is a team that definitely is one of the biggest sleepers in the SEC this season, and I consider them to be possibly a top 10 team in the nation right now. And this is going to be a very important game for both these teams moving forward in determining who's going to win the SEC East. Of course, you got Florida in there as well, along with Georgia and Tennessee. So this is one of 3 really big matchups coming up in the SEC East this season. So, once again, very important matchup for both these teams moving forward, especially on the Tennessee side. And today we'll be going over a full preview and prediction on this game, starting out with your team trends. Last week, Tennessee beat Missouri 35-12. They looked very impressive in that matchup. Of course, Missouri this season is really no team that's very threatening, but still 35-12 win there is very impressive on the Tennessee side. Then last week, Georgia obviously had that huge blowout win over Auburn 27-6, which that is a great win. That's a win by 3 touchdowns. And for the Georgia to beat an Auburn team that was ranked a top 10 team in the nation at the time, very impressive win for Georgia. They're easily playing as well as any team in the nation right now. And both teams are sitting at 2-0 as well with 2-game winning streaks. Tennessee is ranked 14th in the nation. Meanwhile, Georgia is number 3. Game is going to be on Saturday, October 10th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern in Athens, Georgia. So it is going to be a home game for the Georgia side right now. Spread currently says Georgia by 13. So it is actually really favoring Georgia in this situation. Like the spread usually doubles. So basically a 13-point spread towards Georgia is basically like predicting that Georgia is going to win by 20 to 24 points. So for Georgia, that's very heavy on their side, I would say. ESPN FPI is also very heavy towards Georgia, 88%. And then the Vegas prediction is actually expecting it to be a touchdown game, with Georgia winning at 29-22. So all 3 of our sources here do have Georgia in the end by a moderate to a high-scoring game, as well as having Georgia pretty heavily. So Tennessee is not very favored in this matchup, even though I think Tennessee really has as good of a shot as anyone to beat Georgia this season. Stat comparison, quarterback Jarrett Garantano for Tennessee. Of course, he was 14 for 23 last week, 190 yards and a touchdown. So he had a decently impressive performance. For 14 passes to have nearly 200 yards is impressive in and of itself. But the thing is, though, he did have kind of an iffy completion rate. He only threw basically 66%. So that is a little bit concerning there. But still, he didn't throw any interceptions, so that is really what matters in the end. But as far as it goes for the running back core, they're looking really good there. Eric Gray had a great performance, 16 attempts, 105 yards and a touchdown. And you can't forget about Ty Chandler as well, 19 attempts for 90 yards and a touchdown on his side as well. As far as the receiver core goes, you got Josh Palmer, of course, 4 receptions for 71 yards. And then Jalen Hyatt, who had 2 receptions for 54 yards last week. So Tennessee is looking really good on the offensive end. And something that I've really noticed out of Tennessee too is their defense is very improved this season. That is something that you really got to watch out for. Like, it's not only the offense for Tennessee this season, it's also the defensive side. Like, the defense is looking really good for Tennessee this season, and they've already played decently well. Like, they only allowed 12 points to Missouri. You got to watch out for them as well on the defensive side. It's not only the offense. As for Georgia, they're playing very well on both sides of the ball. Of course, it was kind of up for question how they'd be this season after the big news broke out that Jamie Newman wouldn't be playing this season. And so Stetson Bennett has stepped into that position, and he has played really well so far. He put up a great performance against Auburn, 17 for 28. So his completion rate was decent. It wasn't great, but he did put up 240 yards, and that's the big baseline here, along with a touchdown. So Stetson Bennett has definitely stepped into that position and played really well. Obviously, you also got JT Daniels as a quarterback over there. So for Stetson Bennett to beat him out, that's a big win for Bennett. And I think, Jamie Newman, once again, when he decided to opt out, a lot of people, including myself, I started marking out Georgia a little bit. I didn't really think Georgia would be as good or nearly as good of a team this season because of them losing Jamie Newman, but they've proved me wrong so far. Stetson Bennett and this Georgia offense has played very impressive. I think Georgia is as good as anyone right now, and if Stetson Bennett can continue the trend that he's on, he could be one of the big dark horse quarterbacks of that SEC conference. He's playing really well right now. Running back, as far as the running back core goes, for Georgia, you got Zamir White, 19 attempts, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and then James Cook, 5 receptions for 41 yards. As far as the receiving core goes, you had one main receiver last week, and that was Kyaris Jackson. He had a great performance, 9 receptions, 447 yards. Then George Pickens had 2 receptions, 26 yards, and a touchdown as well. So all around, both offenses are looking great for this game, but both defenses are great too. So I do expect this game to be a bit of a low-scoring defensive matchup here. As far as your previous schedules go, of course, these are your last 5 games, and this will fill up as the season goes on, which both teams have played 2 games so far. Tennessee has played Missouri. They beat them 35-12, and they also beat South Carolina on the road 31-27, which that is a bit of a close matchup considering South Carolina is not a very good team, but still a win's a win there, and I think South Carolina is a much better team than people are giving them credit for. As for Georgia, they beat Auburn, 7th-ranked team in the nation at the time, 27-6. And they also beat Arkansas by 27, 37-10 was the final score there. And it was very concerning to me when Georgia was really close to Arkansas. Like Arkansas, I think, was leading Georgia for the majority of that first half of that game. So that was really concerning for me. But Georgia in the second half has really, they really pulled out in that game. And the way that they've played since that second half against Arkansas has been extremely impressive is what I'm trying to say. And I think if they can keep that going against Tennessee, they should be on their way to a big win here in week number 6. Some key points as well. Tennessee is quietly one of the best teams in the SEC, I think. I mean, if you watch my rankings video for this week, I've actually got Tennessee as a top 10 team in the nation right now. I think I've got them at number 10 for week number 6. And the main reason for that is because, one, I mean, if you looked at how many upsets that we saw last week, it's just insane. But also, I mean, Tennessee's played as well as really anyone so far. I mean, if you look at some of the scores and everything, like Tennessee would have beaten Arkansas by just as much as Georgia did, in my opinion. Like Tennessee, I mean, they had a big win, a big 20-point win over Missouri, and they also beat South Carolina on the road, which South Carolina obviously is not all that terrible of a team this season. So Tennessee, I think, is quietly one of the best teams in the nation for that matter. Watch out for them. If they win this game, yeah, Tennessee is definitely for real this season. But yeah, that's a team that you genuinely got to watch out for here. Georgia's off to a great start as well. I mean, if you look at them so far, sitting at 2-0, yeah, they've played pretty well. And then, once again, expect a low-scoring defensive game here. I think both defenses really will be going, or will be your main matchup here. I think both offenses are great. I mean, you got Jarrett Garantano in that offense for Tennessee that's looking pretty good right now. But as far as it goes for Georgia, I mean, yeah, they've got Stetson Bennett and a great offense as well. But I think the defenses in the end are really going to be what prevails in this game. So I think that we do see a more defensive game here. I do think that we see some moderate scoring. I don't think it's going to be a like 20-10 kind of game, if you know what I mean. But I do expect it to be a bit of a low-scoring matchup, which here's what I'm expecting here. I think your halftime score is going to be 17-14, so we're going to see the majority of the scoring here in the first half. Georgia will be leading it, however, at halftime. And then your final score is going to be 24-23. Georgia gets a win in a nail-biter. It's going to be a very close matchup here. I think Georgia gets the win here by 1. Tennessee is going to be right neck and neck with Georgia all the way up until the finish. I think that we do see Tennessee possibly have a last drive that could be a game-winning drive if they can just get a field goal, which I think Georgia's defense does prevail in the end, and Georgia gets the win. But Tennessee, it wouldn't surprise me to see them win this matchup, and I'll say that over and over again as we move forward with this week. Like, if Georgia actually had a real home field advantage with however many fans that they can fit into that stadium, which they always have a great turnout for every game, I'd probably pick Georgia by much more than this. But the thing is, and the fact of the matter is that we don't have fans in the stands right now, so the home field advantage factor is really not as much this season. That's something that I've really noticed over the past couple of weeks, is that home field advantage really has not mattered very much to most teams. So for Tennessee, this is a game where I definitely think we could see Tennessee make a big run, getting a huge win against Georgia, which I don't think it happens in the end. But once again, watch out for Tennessee. This is a team this season that I've been very high on from the start. I mean, I was saying way back in February, like, Tennessee's a team to watch out for this season, and they have proved so far that they definitely are a team to watch out for. And I think that Georgia does get the win here in the end by 1. But it is going to be a close matchup, and there's going to be nothing that Tennessee should be upset about moving into week number 7 after this matchup, even if they do lose in a close matchup, because of how good of a team Georgia is right now. Yeah, I do expect it to be close, though. Once again, Georgia gets the win in the end by 1. The final score, 24-23, Georgia gets the win. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, though. I think this is going to be probably your best matchup of week number 6, to be honest. I definitely think this is the most confident I am that we're going to see a very close matchup here. But yeah, do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. But then again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I'll see you all later.